after the year Hollywood had, with Weinstein and Spacey et al., you'd kind of think that its brightest stars would practice some humility on the whole moral barometer front. Well, no such luck. Instead, one of America's favorite actors is insulting the president just to sell his movie. The swipe comes from actor Tom Hanks, who's given us so many iconic moments on the screen, the big screen, but he kind of flops as a political commentator and pundit. Hanks informed The Hollywood Reporter that he doesn't think he would screen his new film called The Post at the White House if he was asked. Why not? Imagine a world, Hanks explained, where a president treats papers like the Washington Post as purveyors of fake news. Hey, Gump, maybe he treats them that way because half the time they are. The actor stars in Steven Spielberg's new flick, The Post, about the paper's decision in the 70s to publish the top-secret details about the Vietnam War in the Pentagon Papers. The difference is Ben Bradlee, the editor of the Washington Post at the time, actually had the Pentagon Papers. Today, The Post routinely uses anonymous sources in all of its reporting, and most of it, at least when it's damning against Trump, and all too often gets things totally wrong that they then have to backtrack on or modify. Oh, by the way, and Tom Hanks needn't worry, as Daily Variety pointed out, President Trump has not asked to screen the film The Post at the White House, so no worries. Maybe it's time to, I don't know, cast away Tom Hanks. I kind of liked him better, by the way, on the deserted island, talking to that volleyball. That was cute. That's the dialogue that I enjoy from Tom Hanks. Riveting. I almost thought it was a basketball I'd forgotten.
Does Tom Hanks want to cast away President Trump? In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, the actor said he would not attend a White House screening of his new movie, The Post. In the film, Tom Hanks plays the executive editor of the Washington Post during the Watergate era. The actor went on to say, quote, "Look, I didn't think things were going to be this way last November. I would not have been able to imagine that we would be living in a country where neo-Nazis are doing torchlight parades in Charlottesville and jokes about Pocahontas are being made in front of Navajo code talkers. And individually, we have to decide when we take to the ramparts." Your thoughts on this, Lisa?
Boo. Boo to Tom Hanks. I mean, I'm just so sick and tired of Hollywood and what they think and their elitism and the moral superiority when they should have no moral superiority. So I say boo to Tom Hanks. I'm personally not going to watch the movie. I'm not going to celebrate a paper that I think is a bunch of partisan hacks.
You
asked me for my opinion.
I was being honest. Tom Hanks is probably mad that his taxes are actually going up if he lives in California or New York.
Could be part of it. I think there, especially in Hollywood and other places, there's kind of this discussion that we've entered some new dark age of authoritarianism. But I think I would hope Mr. Hanks and others would reflect on what's happened in the last year. And what you really see is policies moving entirely in the other direction. We talked about getting the government out of regulating the internet. This is not what authoritarians do, reducing government control over communications. So I think when you look at the impact of the Trump administration, it's all moving in a direction toward more liberty and more ability for people to communicate, as Mr. Hanks
We
wants.
should point out this is a Steven Spielberg film. Meryl Streep plays Kay Graham. The publisher is during the Watergate era, and Tom Hanks plays the famous editor of the Washington Post, Ben Bradlee. You know what? Ben Bradlee, quite grab him by the horn, salty gentleman, if memory serves. Ben Bradlee would have gone to the White House, even if he hated the president, wouldn't he have?
It's certainly an opportunity to learn. If you want to exercise your First Amendment rights and be journalistic, you would go just for that reason, I would think. And then, of course, there's the argument that you respect the office.
But isn't it a sense of irony? Because all of these people who are so critical of the president are saying that he's disrespecting the country. But then they're disrespecting the country as well by not going to the White House, by not treating the office of the presidency with the respect that it deserves. So, I mean, there's a sense of hypocrisy here on the behalf of Tom Hanks.
And that's the thing. Is it the office or the individual? And I think the office is something that you need to display reverence towards.
Exactly. 100%.
I'd just say I don't think Tom Hanks will be able to beat Jason Robards, who played Ben Bradley in All the President's
Pretty
Men,
strong, yeah.
which I watched recently. It's on Amazon.
But you said the most important thing during the break. The reason why you go to the White House is because the chocolate cake is good.
No, the chocolate cake is the most beautiful.
And you get ice cream, apparently.
No, the best chocolate cake in the world is apparently at Mar-a-Lago, which President Trump told Xi Jinping, the leader of China. So, and I've seen photos of that chocolate cake. So let's assume that the Mar-a-Lago chocolate cake is served at the White House. Capping a busy year, President Trump holds his final cabinet meeting at the White House. The president applauding his hardworking team and asking HUD Secretary Ben Carson to pray for him and the country.
I'm going to ask Ben Carson, and you can stay if you want it, because you need the prayer more than I do, I think. You may be the only ones. Maybe a good, solid prayer, and they'll be honest, Ben. Is that possible? So, Ben, we'll ask you to say grace. Thank you.
He's basically saying that the media, Sean, needs prayers.
I think
they do after you curse them. You curse them privately so much. I'm just joking.
We all need some prayers. It's the Christmas season, so.
But what were you saying, Lisa? You brought this up in the break. This has been an ongoing conversation ever since you sat down.
Yeah, well, so this is something I've been thinking about. We were talking about it during the break, so I think it'd be interesting for the viewers to listen to what you had to say. But so the economy's booming. We're seeing the unemployment rate reaching lows, stock markets booming. President Trump's putting points on the board, especially with the historic tax reform. Yet that's not translating in the polls. President Trump's approval rating is low. Democrats lead by double digits on the generic ballot. Only 17% of Americans think they're going to get a tax cut. So why the disconnect? And do you worry that that's going to hurt Republicans heading into 2018?
I don't, and for this reason, that there's enough time. Those poll numbers are what I think are a lagging indicator. They will catch up in February, March, April as wages increase, as take-home pay increases, as people actually feel it. People don't vote on a piece of legislation, so you can pass a popular piece of legislation and still lose an election. I think this is going to come back to how people feel, and they're going to feel like the economy is booming if what we've seen already is any indication of where we go. But to the broader point of what you're asking, we started with health care where we didn't really have a strong public messaging plan, nor did we really have a strong legislative strategy. This time on the tax bill, they got it right. They worked with the House and the Senate, which is no small feat, and got this thing through. I think where we've got to keep on improving as a Republican majority with the House Senate is doing that grassroots, grass tops, getting out into the country, doing those events and going to sell it the way we used to. Because this is something that you got to bring out to middle America and say, this is how you'll benefit. This is the problem you have, and this is the solution that we're presenting.
I know that the president clearly loves talking about the record stock market. A little bit of a pullback yesterday, but I've cautioned him, not that he listens, and you have, the editorial page has, about because the market can turn against you for a myriad reasons, and then you end up owning this correction.
Yeah, stocks are not cheap now.
A correction, I should say.
So, you know, and markets do fluctuate. Eventually there will be a pullback. But I think it's also true that markets are reflecting the possibility of faster growth now in the United States. Profits are coming up. Anyway, the point is, if he gets a good policy in place, do you think he's okay?
Yeah, I think
if stocks turn down.
Right. I think it's a mistake, and I would agree with you on this, not to put your hat all on the stock market. The upside for the president right now, and frankly for Republicans, you saw housing starts at 5.6% yesterday, the #1 in 11 years. You've seen take-home pay go up, unemployment's down to 4.1%. You've seen growth at over 3% for multiple quarters. The Obamas had it for, I think it was 8 quarters over the course, or 9 quarters over the course of 8 years. We're seeing sustained growth and increasing, and that in the face of multiple hurricanes. So I think that you actually, as long as those other economic indicators keep moving in the same direction, then it's not a big deal. I agree with you. You can see those fluctuations in the stock market, and you don't want to be tied to every one of them.
I want to get your reaction to this, which we talked about earlier. Tom Hanks turning his back on the White House. Hanks tells The Hollywood Reporter that if there's a White House screening of his new movie, The Post, he plays Ben Bradley, the former editor of The Washington Post, Kay Graham, played by Meryl Streep, he won't go. The actor went on to say, quote, "Look, I didn't think things were going to be this way last November. I would not have been able to imagine that we would be living in a country where neo-Nazis are doing torchlight parades in Charlottesville and jokes about Pocahontas are being made in front of Navajo code talkers. And individually, we have to decide when to take to the ramparts." I want your reaction, Sean. What do you say about that? Because
well,
you've had
first
to
and
put
foremost, look, I think that at some point it's become now cool to be like, I'm not going to go do this. And at some point, look, I will tell you this right now. If President Obama called me right now today and said, hey, come mow my lawn, I'd do it. Because I think that there's something that we all should come together as Americans and want to support our leaders, our elected officials, Republican, Democrat. And I think the idea that it's become kind of cool to say, I won't even show up to see the President of the United States is a sad commentary on where we are. And I think that for people like Tom Hanks, who's, I think, a great film producer and director, he should take the lead and maybe say, you know what, I want to go talk to the president about these important issues that were brought up in my movie, The Post.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.